Good morning. Well, in the political situation today, we often talk of the human rights. We also often talk of the right of information and right to express our opinion. And then we have seen that Pakistan is one country apart from Indonesia where we find objects of criticism. We object to Pakistan's law of blasphemy. Maybe rightly so. We condemned Indonesia when the then governor of a province was imprisoned for blasphemy. But why we blame Pakistan and why do we blame Indonesia? Are these so-called Western advanced countries any better? In this age of enlightenment and reason, in this age when we say that we have a right to respect the opinions of the others as well as our own, to give expression to our thoughts that do not injure others, the very talk of blasphemy is anathema to any sensible man. But what happened? A famous writer of England, Stephen Fry, has been under investigation for 2 years because he made some remarks on the Irish television. Had he been punished, he would have to face a fine of 25,000 euros. But unfortunately for the police, despite their best efforts, they could not bring a case against him. And what was his crime? He made a statement that if he met God, he'll ask him, why did you create this world where there's so much of misery? It is utterly evil. And since the word is bad and innocent people suffer, the God must be mean, stupid, who created a word full of injustice and pain. And his further comments were still more damaging. He called God a selfish person, an utter maniac. And then he said, we spend our lives on our knees, bowing to him, praying to him. What kind of God is that? Now, this is an expression which we often use. We call upon God. Why this injustice? And for making these remarks, for making these comments, he was prosecuted for 2 years by Irish police for an act of blasphemy. Can anything be more ridiculous? Now, if this had happened in Pakistan or in Indonesia, this would have made headlines. A famous personality, a person who was considered for Nobel Prize for Literature, is hounded, hunted, persecuted, prosecuted for giving expression to the pain that he sees all around. The pain of human beings like you and me. And they call it blasphemy. You do not have a right to even say that this word is criminally hounded. And the man who created this word cannot, other person, I shouldn't say man, other entity which created this bad word must be bad in thought. If you write a bad poem, they say you are bad. If you write pornography, you are a criminal. But if you create a word which is full of misery and pain, full of child pornography and infanticide, full of criminal domestic violence, then that word is okay. You cannot condemn that creator. What stupidity! Now, can you believe this interview on television of Stephen Fry was watched by 7 million people? And this is not the end. People keep on watching it. As a matter of fact, the comment of Stephen Fry, and I have often used worst language ever. I sometime back wrote an imaginary dialogue with God where I exposed the hypocrisy and the stupidity of so-called God. And it's just basically a starting point of systematic theological class. He has been very vocal, and since he is well known, his statement does carry weight. So why condemn him? Now, but then you see, again, the point is, do these oddities exist only in Ireland? As they exist in the eastern parts, like in Pakistan or Indonesia, or some in medieval kingdoms like Saudi Arabia and Qatar? Unfortunately, it is not so. Similar laws exist in Poland, in Austria, in Italy, in Greece, in Turkey, in Russia. In most of the Islamic world, notion of blasphemy is only a part of political and social fabric. Okay, it's ordained by their constitution. But to make that a part of the Western heritage, which is quite voluble and speaks on the rooftops, at the top of its voice, that they value human rights and right to dissent, right to differ. Where does this right to dissent go when stupid laws like blasphemy laws exist, and exist in those countries which call themselves democratic, protectors of human rights, protectors of conscience? That is simply because that's a way of oppression, bigotry and intolerance. Faith of any individual is something which I don't object to. It's a dialogue basically. But no faith is really faith which cannot face challenging questions or ignores them. And Ireland is a member of the European Union and still has that blasphemy laws the way Italy has, Poland has, Turkey has, and all of them are members of European Union except Russia. One thing more, this law, the blasphemy law, is not an old law. We know that many laws are old laws and they have not been repealed. But this law was enacted in 2009, and this prohibits publishing or uttering the matter which is abusive and insulting in relation to the matters sacred to any religion, thereby causing outrage among the substantial adherents to that religion. Now, yes, but when you say God is not one religion you are criticizing. Now, compare this logic with the Pakistani laws. There they are specific that if you criticize Quran or Muhammad, you are guilty of blasphemy. Here you are not criticizing Bible, you are not criticizing Jesus Christ. You have criticized only God, an entity which nobody has seen. And the agnostics who do not believe in God are the largest number in the world today. That means to say the largest majority of non-believers are guilty of blasphemy every day. If Irish law is to be upheld. And just 2 days After the Fry's debacle, because the case was thrown out, we found that Jakarta's Christian governor was sentenced to 2 years in jail because he had criticized Islam. Okay. He denied the charge. There was no proof. But simply because 4 people said that he had criticized, he was punished. How can you do it? And why should we do it? How can we say that 30% of the citizens who are not Muslims should have no right to criticize? Nevertheless, assume that criticizing any religion causes pain to the adherents of that religion. I believe it. So there is no reason. But what Stephen Fry did was not criticizing any religion. This blasphemy law is an oddity, is a national oddity. And when I was studying this subject, I was shocked that this law, such a law exists in North Ireland, Scotland, and even Denmark. Now, Denmark is a model of pluralism and freedom. But 46 years after it said that it believes in pluralism, at the end of the Second World War, it just brought in first blasphemy charge. And staggering 66%. Now this is shocking. 66% of the population of Denmark believes and supports blasphemy law. You might be thinking that it's a Muslim word. No. The total population of Muslims in Denmark is less than 5%. But 66% support blasphemy. As we have already said, that many Western countries like Turkey, Greece, Italy, Austria have this law. What about Canada? Do you know that Canada also, blasphemy is a crime? I'm not referring to the motion recently passed, Ikra Khalid's motion, which was bad by itself. But even otherwise, there is a law that if you defame a religion, you can be sentenced to jail. And we are always talking of pluralism. Something terrible is happening. Something is troubling us. As freedom expands, reactionary fear of the freedom develops. And there is no one more angry than a fundamentalist scorned. They say that the anger of a scorned lady is something that cannot be tolerated. And a scorned fundamentalist is the worst possible opponent you can ever have. And a scorned fundamentalist is the worst enemy of reason, logic. Insult for the sake of insulting is bad, is childish, is pointless. I agree. And nobody has a right to injure the feelings of the others. But strong words to make a point is not only acceptable, but is vital for healthy democracy. You cannot have a healthy democracy until and unless sometimes you use a strong words to express your innermost thoughts and feelings. And especially when you criticize the entity of God, is bad. Now coming to the democratic part, as I said, the largest number of people joining the ranks of agnostics every year is highest in this case. If agnosticism was to be deemed a religion by itself, it will be the fastest growing religion. But it's not a religion. But it's a concept. It's a thought pattern. And that thought pattern is sought to be suppressed under the blasphemy laws. My point is that why do the people condemn blasphemy laws in one part of the world and are absolutely deaf and mute when it happens in the other part of the world? A Christian woman is ordered to be hanged in Pakistan and all hell loses in criticizing Pakistan. I am no apologist for Pakistan. Let me be very clear. But I believe in equality. If Pakistan is guilty, so is Ireland guilty, so is Poland guilty, so is Austria guilty, so is Turkey guilty. Why do we not condemn them? What is wrong in Pakistan's judicial system or Indonesian judicial system is equally wrong in Denmark, Canada, Scotland, Austria, Italy, Greece, Poland, Russia. Are we going forward or are our steps retrograde? It's for you to think. But it's a high time we took a decision that reason and logic, debate are the essential, are the quintessential aspects of the human freedom. And no blasphemy laws should impede the process of dialogue and discussion. Thank you.